Good morning, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the CheonBo Registration Staff Workshop. So at this point, you'll be watching a lecture, a video lecture from our very own Christine, our CheonBo staff in our international office in CheonBo, Korea. And in this video, you will be studying about the flow of ancestor liberation and blessing. And that you can see here the actual registration form, how it looks like. And then what are the parts of the registration form that you have to fill up. And also how the registration donation, the liberation donation or the blessing donation, how it is computed. So whether you belong to group 1, group 2 until group 5. And also, we will be discussing in this presentation, who are we liberating? For example, you want to liberate your father's side, your ancestors on mother's side, or your grandmother on the mother's side. These kinds of lines, the 4 lines, you will know who are we liberating in this video presentation. You will know about this topic. And also, how to welcome the ancestors after they finish the ancestor blessing. And then we know that after 40 days, they will be coming down and we have to welcome them as they come down from the spirit world. So we will be knowing the details how to do that. So please enjoy this special presentation today and good luck to everyone. Enjoy the video.
Liberation and blessing. In registration, when it comes to other collaterals of future blessing of spirit, everything will come back to ancestor liberation and blessing. This is the basic procedure that everyone should know when it comes to registration. Okay? So registration can be so frustrating, and sometimes it can be very difficult. And sometimes when I do registration, I also feel frustrated. But but keep in mind that who are more frustrated are the people who come, with problems of their own ancestor liberation and blessing. And it's very important to really understand what they feel, even though you yourself can feel frustrated at times, because it's really important that we help them as much as we can, so that they could complete until 430 generation liberation and blessing. So, for flow of ancestor liberation and blessing, how does the ancestors go through and become absolute good spirits? Ancestor, they start from hell, and once members can apply for ancestor liberation, and spirits will then go through this ancestor liberation ceremony. And from ancestor liberation ceremony, they will go to the 100 days workshop in the spirit world. And in this 100 days workshop, these ancestors, they will learn about God through parents, divine principle, and they will even realize what the truth is. And this is also the time that they will repent of their sins and also trying to erase their sins from their own spiritual body. So from this 100 days workshop, after they finish, they are then eligible to go for ancestor blessing ceremony. So in the ancestor blessing ceremony, after the ceremony, they will then go for another 40 days workshop. And that's where they learn how to live a life as a blessed family, and how they can offer their support to their descendants on earth. So after 40 days, they will then return to their descendants' home. So it is recommended that when ancestors return home after their 40 days workshop, it's recommended that members can offer a welcoming ceremony to welcome them home after so long, and so that you can live together with your ancestors. So in CheonBo, this is what the basic registration form would look like. Some of you may saw it before, and those who did registration on the tour, it will look similar. We had a different. This is the newer version. Like last time, it's a different one, but this is what we would use now. So basically, everything will be on this paper, from ancestor liberation to blessing and to other collateral liberation as well. So in CheonBo, we have ancestor liberation every weekend, and then we have ancestor blessing ceremony once a month. It will be held usually on the third weekend, or if there's a special grade works, then it will be on special grade works. So basic knowledge about ancestor liberation. When it comes to donation, there's always comprises of both the registration fee and the liberation of blessing donation. So these are the two, I would say, fees and donation that is really important because it is different for liberation and blessing. How it's calculated and how it's done. So for ancestor liberation, so who are we liberating? This is the graph that is inside the manual that is really important to know. Because who are we actually liberating? These are the father side, and then the mother side, and then the grandmother father side, and the grandmother mother side. But then it is important because besides knowing who we are liberating, if you have your own family members who are also doing ancestor liberation, this plays a large, important role. Because sometimes you may be liberating these 4 lineages, but if you have a cousin who shares the same, you and that cousin share the same grandparents, then your cousin might not need to, will only need to liberate 3 lines instead of 4 lines. So understanding this may take time, but it is really important. Okay. So as Richie already mentioned, who can do ancestor liberation and blessing? It's only apply those members who have received the holy wine and benediction from a pastor, and they have to be at least 18 years old. So ancestor liberation registration. So besides the condition, there is this liberation donation as well. As Richie has mentioned, each liberation donation, there is 5 groups. And in each group, when it comes to ancestor liberation registration fee, $25 fee is calculated by each 7 generation and by each pair of father and mother, and then grandmother father and grandmother mother. So that means if you were to do liberation of 1 to 7 for father and mother side, that is 1 registration fee of $25. Okay? And if you were to do next time a liberation of 1 to 7 for your grandmother's father side and your grandmother's mother side, that is another $25. Okay? So if you were to do 4 lines, all 4 lineages at once, that means you have to pay 25 times 2. So $50 in total. Okay? So some people, they will just do father side first. Then next time they will do mother side. So if that's the case, then they have to pay $25 twice. So this registration fee refers to every time they apply for an ancestor liberation. So for registration fee, this is the case. Let's say, for example, they are doing 1 to 7 and this 2, then it will be 25 to 25. So then for this case, there will be $50 that the member have to pay for registration fee. But if the member is only doing, let's say, father, mother 8 to 14, and then they're starting grandmother, father side and grandmother, mother side on 1 to 7 generation, then that is the same case with this. That means 25 plus $25 of registration fee. Okay? So even if it's a case where they only do mother side, then they started on the grandmother, father side. This is 25 plus 25. And same goes for that as well. So even though they're only doing mother side only and they didn't do father side, they finished already father side and they're starting on the mother side 1 to 7, that's $25 registration fee. And then the other one at the bottom is another 25. Okay? So for this one, can you guess how much they need to pay for registration fee?
$250.
So there's one set here, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. So the total is 125. Okay? Yeah. So calculation is very important when it comes to registration. So I always have a calculator with me. Okay, for liberation donation. So how do you calculate the payment for ancestor liberation? It differs on each group because each group rate is different. So for ancestor liberation, members only have to focus on doing 1 to 210 because after 210 it will be automatic. After 210, members only need to focus on ancestor blessing. So ancestor liberation from 1 until 210, members can choose how much they want to do, how much generation they can do at that moment. So for example, if they want to do 1 until 210 in one go, then it's up to them. They can do it as well. Okay? So ancestor liberation, when it comes to how to calculate, it is by each box that you see on this form. So for each lineage by each 7 generation. So for 1 to 7 generation is always the most it will have the amount will be much more than compared to the rest of the sets of ancestors. So for this case is that this is group 1. Group 1 to 7 generation is $700 for each lineage right here. Then after that you will see $70, $70, $70. So counting this is, I would say, much easier because it's for each boxes. Don't forget there's also registration. Okay? So another thing about ancestor liberation is that in the past, a really long time ago, members were allowed to pay partial payment. So they didn't need to pay full amount. But as of now registration in CheonBo, members need to pay the full amount of ancestor liberation. The reason is that because if members did not complete the amount of donation, the ancestors are not liberated. What will happen to them is that they are waiting. They're in the waiting room. They're waiting so that their descendants to complete the donation so that they could start their 100 days workshop. It is not a place, it is not hell, but it's also not a very decent place, I would say, because ancestors, they are anxious while waiting, like when is my descendants gonna, liberate me? Am I going back to hell? Because they know hell is horrible. They don't want to go back there. They want to be liberated. So it's always encouraged that, if you came across any members who have partial payments, finish the donation first. Then continue starting new liberation of their ancestors. So whenever members you come across, those members, please advise, complete the donation first. Complete any kind of back payment they have, complete that, then they can start new generation of liberation. Okay? So for this, let's say this is group 3, right? So donation or workshop fee is $275 because there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sets times $25. So that is $275. So as for the fees, total is $1,000 because group 3, each box is $25, right? So each 5 of all this in total will be $1,000, and then total will be $1,275. So always remember the registration fee and the donation for the liberation. So let's say this is from group 1. Total here will be $300. Regardless, this is only one liberation, so this is still this workshop fee still have to be paid for. And then for liberation, first 7 is $700, right? And the rest will be $70 each box. Total will be $2,240. And remember to add the registration fee plus Ancestor liberation donation. Then total will be $2,540. So they will go for 100 days workshop after liberation. So 100 days later, they will pass, and it's always good to remember to always remind members to do their 21 days condition. During 100 days, for this ancestor to go through the workshop is not easy for them. They will need as much support as they can get from the descendants. So 100 days later, ancestors can receive the blessing. So 100 days later, when member offers apply for ancestor blessing, so for ancestor blessing, there's no set condition. Of course, members, if they want to offer devotion during the 100 days workshop, besides the 21 days, they are also welcome to do so. For a blessing donation, if you look at your group, this group donation here, for liberation and blessing, the amount is always the same, but how it is calculated is different. So, and also besides that, for members, if they do attend the ancestor blessing ceremony, please remind them to prepare holy robe and blessing ring. Okay? So, remember the registration fee for ancestor liberation. It is by pair of father, mother, and then grandmother, father, and grandmother, mother side parent, and for each 7 generations. But for ancestor blessing, it's only one time or $25 fee for one person, regardless of how much blessing that they apply for. So if I were to apply for all 1 to 210, I will only need to pay $25. Okay, it's very different from ancestor liberation. Okay, so $25 is only needed here in CheonBo. And besides that, in the form you will see 2 lines. You will see from first generation until 322 here. In CheonBo, at this moment, the highest generation members can bless is until 322 generations. From December onwards, then the new set will be ready. That will be 323 until 329 generations. So it's basically one set of 7 generations every 5 months. Okay? So members, on this form, there's 2 parts for ancestor blessing. So it's either members only do 1 or 2. Because if members did not complete 210 of ancestor blessing, the next 211 cannot be done, because the requirement is that members must finish 210 first. Then only the next 7 generations will be liberated. Liberation of 211 onwards is automatic, and members do not need to apply for liberation and pay for ancestor liberation. Okay? So ancestor blessing, so let's say how it's calculated is that instead of each boxes like ancestor liberation, ancestor blessing is by whole column. Let's say, for example, 1 to 7 generation, instead of counting for each boxes for each lineage, instead the amount is just one amount for the whole column of 7 generations. So one set is just one amount that they need to donate, not times 4. Okay, so for, let's say this is group 5, and group 5, first 7 generation for father's side is $50. So then after that will be $5, $5, and so on. So the most important for ancestor liberation, ancestor blessing, is the first 7 generation of father side. Because if you remember ancestor liberation, the first 7 cost more than the rest. And for ancestor blessing is the same, but only if it includes father side. If it does not include father side, then the rate is the normal rate after 7 generation. So for example, because this father side is here, then it's $50. And then because if member apply for father side, mother side 1 to 7, then it's $50. And then if member does 3 of father, mother side, and grandmother father side blessing, it's also $50. And if member do all 4 lineages, it's also $50. And even if member were to bless, father side only and grandmother father side only, it's also $50. So from what you can see here is that instead of counting for every box, it's counted by the whole set of 7 generations. And it has to include father side 1 to 7. Okay? But in this case, on number 2, if it does not include father side 1 to 7, then let's say father side 1 to 7 was already done previously, and this member will only want to do mother side here, then the 8 to 14 father side, then 15 to 21 father and mother side. So because this father side is not included, instead of paying $50, only $5. So 5, 5, 5 equals $15. Okay? So same goes for that, because the father side is not included, then it's $5, $5, $5. Same for the other 2 as well, because the father side is not included. So when registration for ancestor blessing for 1 to 7, it's very important to know whether the father side 1 to 7 is included or not. Because if it does, then the amount is different. Okay? So what about blessing after 210 generation? If member wants to finish 210, the moment member bless from 200 until 210, then the next 7 generation will automatically be liberated. I understand now there's a new direction, but it's before I can explain that, it's very important to know this, because this is how it's been going on, and this is how it is going to be after Foundation Day 2020. So how it goes is that once 210 is blessed, then the next 7 generation will be liberated. So this set will be liberated, and 100 days later, because the ancestors need to go to 100 days workshop, right? 100 days later, then members can apply for ancestor blessing. And when they apply for blessing here, then the next 7 generation will be liberated automatically. Okay? So then again, 100 days later, then ancestor blessing. So it takes time, because every set to bless is 100 days each. So on our blessing form, like I said just now, is that there's 2 lines, 2 columns, right? 1 until 210, then 211, and so on. The reason is that because members can only choose one. Because if they did not finish 210, then they cannot begin 211. And if they want to start in 211, you have to make sure that they finish 210 first. Okay? So for this case is that if I were to bless 1 to 7 for all these 4, and I'm from America, then I will only pay 25 registration fee, and then I will need to pay 700 blessing for all 4, because this is just one set. Okay? It's not times 4, not like liberation. Okay? So total will be 725. So same for this, if group 2, so workshop fee is always the same, $25. And then group 2, say 500 here, and the rest is 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, and then it will be total is $300. Okay? So then it will be 325. So for group 4, I will bless all this, just one workshop fee of $25, and then total will be 600. for each color. I will just need to pay. Then total will be 625. Okay? So 40 days later. It's very complicated. You see our time. 40 days later, so ancestors, that's how they become absolute good spirits. So ancestors who become absolute good spirits, they will return to their descendant home and they become beautiful and clear without any traces of sin. So what the descendants we recommend to do is to always have a welcoming ceremony for them. It's just like having your own relatives, your own close family members who you're close with, and they leave, your home for a very long time. And when they return, you want to welcome them back happily with arms wide open, and you want to hold, welcome them. So I know this looks very fabulous, but you don't have to do it like that. It's just an example. Always do. You don't need to do all this. You just do what you can. So most importantly is to sincerely welcome them back to your home. So hold the welcoming ceremony on the 41st day after the ancestor blessing ceremony. So ancestor blessing ceremony, that counts as day number 1. So from day number 1 you count until the 41st day. That's the day that they return to your home, and that's when you can do a welcoming ceremony. For some reason, if you cannot do it on the day, you can select any other day, but please know that they are already returned. The welcoming ceremony doesn't have to be on the 41st day, but you can, depending on your schedule, you can do it later or a few days later. But they will return to your home on the 41st day. Okay? So, in this welcoming ceremony, invite your entire family if possible. Prepare a banner and prepare an offering table. Offering table doesn't have to be does not need to look like the picture before, but most important is your sincere heart. Do pledge like Anshil, opening declaration, the holy song, full bow, family pledge, representative prayer, and some Hondoke. And after that, welcoming words, holy song, and then closing declaration. And then introduce yourself to your relatives if they are with you, to your ancestors, and even those who are not in church, it's very good to introduce, say like, we have these relatives in our family, and talk to your ancestors and share your heart with them. The ancestors, they are very happy if you can, remember them and communicate with them, share with them, include them in your life. And then you can also report your problems and ask for their guidance and help as well. And always remember them. Even though you cannot see them, at certain time maybe you can feel them for some members, but always remember that they are with you and they are always there to help and protect your family. Okay? So that's what my presentation is so far.
Brothers and sisters, at this time, we'll be listening to a special presentation on the registration form guidelines, how to fill up the registration forms. In this topic, we will be studying also the common mistakes in the registration of participants in ancestor liberation and blessing. And also, we will learn also how to link our record, our members' ancestor liberation and blessing records with our relatives in the Total Information System or the TIS. So there is a certain part in the registration form that we have to fill up, and so this will be discussed and explained to you so that your record can be linked to your relative's record. And also, we will be discussing some guidelines on collateral liberation and also the spiritual world and physical world, step 1, step 2, and step 3. So step 1, spiritual world, physical world, the matching. how it is done. And also the step 2, the spiritual world, physical world blessing. And then the step 3, which is the spiritual world, physical world workshop to start family. So please listen very well and enjoy, everyone.
This presentation is intended to be a step-by-step guide through the registration application forms. One of the key documents of the Ancestors Liberation and Ancestors Blessing application is the application form. All applicants must fill out this form in order to apply for special grace that our beloved true parents bestowed to us. A correctly filled out application form will help the registration team to process your application and will avoid any unnecessary delays. So, the first part of this presentation is about general good practices for filling out forms. One is to fill out the form digitally or by handwritten. Just ensure that you fill out the information as legible as possible. That said, please avoid erasures. Please keep the form neat. Include complete and only relevant information needed in the application. And make sure you use the most recent version of form with a correct date of event or workshop. Read through this list to make sure you avoid making the same common errors. Applicant confuses inputting the last name in the first name section. Vice versa. Another is that the application does not indicate the blessing group or if a second-gen blessed child. Next is inputting the wrong date of birth and typographical error. Starting from this part of presentation, we'll tackle about points to consider when filling out the form. First, the Form A main parts are already self-explanatory. But let's focus on parts that's usually overlooked. Number 1 is when applying for Ancestors Liberation until 430 generation. Don't forget to put 211 to 430 and tick the box of applicable side of lineage. If not, then no liberation will take place. Second, when applying for Ancestors Blessing, carefully make sure the liberation was already 100 days past. And at the end of the form, please fill out this part of the form if the applicant has family members, especially if their records are not yet linked in the total information system. Let's move to collateral liberation. It is the liberation of any spirit that is not in your father's side, mother's side, GMF and GMM lineages relatives. Example, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, etc. The following are the spirit that can be applied for collateral: blessed family members and second, third generation. People you know, friends, famous people, etc. Spirits inside people causing problems, on land, etc. The donation standard is based on the spirit, not the person applying for the liberation. Even if you are living in the Philippines, if the collateral you want to liberate was an American, Group 1, you need to offer the Group 1 donation $120. So the points to consider when filling out Form B: first, when applying for central evil spirit in a person, it's not by couple, but by individual. Second, the donation is per couple if they are married, per person if they were single. Next is to specify the relationship of the applied spirit with the applying member. If the spirit is single, indicating his/her age is required. And applicant for persons who passed away after registering for liberation must be his/her parents and grandparents included in 1 to 7 generation, spouses of past collaterals. Next, points to consider when filling out married collateral blessing registration form. First, the applicant must also be the one who applied for the collateral liberation of the spirit. Second, please be reminded that this form is a blessing registration for spirits who were already married during their earthly life. Third, make sure the liberation was already 100 days past. Blessing application must be applied for spirits together as a couple, husband and wife. Next, blessing donation is a one-time donation regardless of number of couples that will be applied for blessing. And lastly, blessing donation is based on applicant's ancestor blessing donation standard. This part is about the first step of spirit world and physical world matching registration. The applicant just simply needed to answer the following questions. Main points to consider are, liberation of spirit can be done either before the spirit world and physical world. And secondly, matching workshop or when registering for the SW and PW matching workshop thing needed. Number 1, if the spirit is not liberated, the spirit's liberation donation is required. Number 2, if the representative is participating, a picture of the person on earth and the representative's workshop fee also. For step 2, 100 days or more after the spirit world and physical world matching workshop, the person on earth or representative participates in spirit world and physical world blessing ceremony. If both husband and wife participated in true parents' blessing in person, this step can be skipped. The following are the things need: 1, the person on earth's workshop fee. 2, spirit world and physical world blessing donation. 3, the participant's holy robe and blessing ring. 4, if the representative is participating, a picture of the person on earth and the representative's workshop fee also. Points to consider when applying for third step, starting family life as a spirit world and physical world blessed family. During the 40th day or more after the spirit world and physical world blessing workshop, the person on earth or representative participates in the spirit world and physical world workshop for education to start family. There will be explanation by branch lecturer on how to do the 3-day ceremony and how to live as a heaven and earth blessed couple. Things needed: 1, the applicant's workshop fee. Number 2, if the representative is participating, a picture of the person on earth and the representative's workshop fee also. And 3, the person on earth and the spirit do 3-day ceremony. For members who had back payment record in the past workshops, a back payment form must be filled out. First important point is to reconfirm the information of the back payment record with CheonBo local staff, or through CheonBo Asia Pacific Branch Office email cp.asia.branch@gmail.com. Ancestor liberations and ancestor blessings were possible since true parents appeared on the earth, discontinued the bloodline of the satanic world, and established all the necessary indemnity conditions. The entire providence of restoration in spirit world and on earth had come to fruition. HJ CheonBo Asia Pacific Branch would like to do our best, as much as possible, to help and support our beloved brothers and sisters to restore and complete their 430 generation of ancestors' liberation and blessing. Please don't hesitate to reach us out at our official branch email for your further questions and suggestions. Let's unite and offer our sincere dedication in restoring the spiritual realm in contribution to comfort Heavenly Parent and true parent's heart. Let's bring Vision 2027 victoriously. Thank you and God bless.
So, at this point now, in our special CheonBo registration staff workshop, we will be hearing some testimonies from our brothers and sisters who actually attended Ancestor Liberation and Blessing. Through this, you can see how the Ancestor Liberation and Blessing that CheonBo works had directly affect the lives of our precious brothers and sisters. Let us learn from each other, and most especially from these testimonies. Please enjoy and watch these testimonies.
For me, there were many times that I felt a lot of grace. When I arrived and started my 40 days, I felt strongly that grace was everywhere. It was a grace to breathe the air here. Look at the beautiful nature, the beautiful structures of Cheonbyo that have been built here during just a few short years. I felt grace in the holy song session so much. Spiritual help and grace in going to the prayer hall. It has been as ongoing wonderful experience. I believe that, if I invest my best in what I am supposed to do at this very moment without having worries in my wind, I can receive so much spiritual help and grace. The ancestor liberation and blessing were deep experiences for me. I liberated distant generations, but also I liberated my father and my father-in-law, that both went to the spiritual world recently. I talked to them as if they were really with me in the moment of liberation, and I told them to go in peace and please learn a lot, and that they could soon meet their beloved wives again. Both my father and my father-in-law love themselves very much, and always wanted to have them close. I think this was very encouraging for them, and I somehow felt they left peacefully. I had a great sense of peace after the liberation, as if I fulfilled what I was supposed to do for my parents and parents-in-law. Although our family has been taking very much care of, physically and emotionally, all four old grandparents, this lack was a great pain for our family. But now with the liberation we could receive the grace of having our parents and parents-in-law going to attend the 100-day workshop in the spiritual world, and one day come back to help us. I believe they will feel moved and motivated in helping our family, in protecting our two precious blessed daughters, and to help our family to make a new start and to witness successfully. I am so grateful to Heavenly Father and true parents. The ancestor blessing was so moving, so holy and signified. In moments of struggles and tiredness here, I often think back on the grace of the ancestor blessing and liberation, and it gives me new strength to carry on and invest in our daily schedule. I still have a few more days to go, since I arrived a bit late for the workshop. I am grateful to have this extra time now to report to God more about my life after the blessing, and to continuously invest more in the holy song sessions. Thank you, Heavenly Father, true parents, Hyunjin Nim and Amo Nim.
I did ancestor liberation for a dozen generations while I attended 21-day workshops before. But at that time I couldn't realize the true meaning of ancestor liberation. This ancestor liberation was the first one after I realized the true meaning of ancestor liberation. So, I felt my first-hand experience that my ancestors were gathering here with us. I was really grateful to come to Cheongbyo, thanks to my ancestors. Also, I attended the Spirit World Matching Workshop for the first time. During the conversation with spirits, I realized a partner spirit came close to me. I attended it as a representative of my church member's younger sister. When I saw her picture, I felt how much hardship she had gone through for her whole life. She had some disability. So, she spent the most of her lifetime in a medical facility since she was young. Now she is her late 60s. She never married before, and now she finally met her partner and became engaged today. She is going to be blessed later. I felt really relieved and happy for her. Thank you always, true parents. I hope we can achieve a victory of heavenly tribal messiahship through the cooperation with spirit world and physical world by fulfilling ancestor liberation and ancestor blessing as soon as possible.
I am deeply grateful for the kindness of God and true parents, which allowed me to participate in the ancestor liberation ceremony for generations 1 to 430. Even though I felt my external situation was not ready, I was finally able to participate in the ceremony. I felt strong encouragement coming toward me from God and true parents. I am so grateful that I could express my appreciation for my ancestors, and I felt so sorry that I had not been able to support God's way. This ceremony will open the gate to heavenly parenter and my ancestors.